Previously on X-Men.
Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews. It's been a crazy week with doing D's reviews and working with Gino, and I didn't want to put any extra stress on myself. I finally got my Captain America Endgame costume in the mail. I'm going to Wizard World this Friday. So just a lot's been going on. I'm on vacation, but now that some of that stuff is over, I'm finally ready to get back into the regular schedule. And where we left off, it was time to come back to the X-Men the Animated Series, Phoenix Saga that we were talking about. Where we left off, we had just finished Child of Light, which was part 5 of the original Phoenix Saga. We are now tackling, it's like a few episodes later, but we are in the Dark Phoenix Saga, part 1. It's called Dazzled. There's a lot to talk about in this episode. And again, like I said, we are deep diving into how it's possible to do the Phoenix Saga some justice in a 90s cartoon that other people besides the comic book just could not match. And I want to appreciate everybody that's watched these and left comments. I sent this out to Robert Jefferson from Comics Explained, who was really nice enough to at least acknowledge that he saw this. You know, that's all I was asking for, was like a little acknowledgement. Some YouTubers can't even do that. And I really appreciate that, Rob. If you see this video, thank you so much for at least saying that you noticed this, because I love the X-Men. I know a lot of people that love comics love the X-Men. If I send it to you that you're a comics person, it's just to like kind of just a little extra fun for people that are into comic books and the lore and stuff. That's all we're really trying to do here. Plus adding on to the fact that people that, you know, the studios that feel that they can't do it in 2 hours. Well, you can't. And this is, here we go. So like I said, this is part 1. It's called Dazzled. This is probably the one I have the most notes of in any of them, like 2 full pages of notes. So anyway, jumping right in. So where we last left off, Jean had left, went to the sun to get rid of the M'Kraan crystal that was going to destroy everything. But we were still left feeling like there was hope that Jean would return. But what was a little, since I haven't seen this in a long time, it was a little jarring to see that she's back in the care of Moira McTaggart at her institute with Charles Xavier and Banshee there. And I was kind of like, I actually stopped it and tried to go back to see if she returned earlier. I'm like, wait a minute, we just jump right into this sucker. So maybe there was a prologue where she returns at the end of an episode, but no. So I was kind of wondering, and we get that answer though in this. I was really confused though for a second. But she's being worked on by Moira McTaggart. Now, if you're not following Moira McTaggart, or if you're not reading the new Powers of 10, House of 10 books, yes, I in another video said I was not going to call it that. Now that I've read the first 2 issues of both books, I understand now why it's called that. So please forgive me. Because initially I'm just like, it's got an X in the title. But now I get it. And I'll never see Moira McTaggart ever again. I don't want to spoil the comic, but her arc, they are completely changing the way you'll look at her, because she's just a human in the show. She's been, connected with Banshee and Charles, and she's, helps mutants with controlling their powers and people with difficult powers, because her son was Proteus, who was kind of another alpha level or omega level mutant like Xavier and Phoenix, Jean, and Legion. And here she's trying to help her get back to normal and trying to reach her and find out what happened. But the Phoenix is just too powerful and like basically blows up all the equipment. And I love it. We get the word psychoneurotherapy is not working. Again, this is a TV Y7 kids show from 94, 95. I mean, it was even earlier than that, but uh, it's time they basically are saying we don't know what to do with her. You have to take her home. Kind of like somebody does when they have terminal cancer and they can't really help them. It's like, why don't you just go and make them comfortable? But really what they're doing is releasing an atomic bomb out into the world, which is kind of actually pretty stupid. Um, but whatever, you know. But she reaches out to Scott psychically. And he's at a club with Gambit here where we are introduced to Dazzler. Now, Dazzler is kind of a divisive character amongst whoever depending on who you ask. I happen to like her a lot, but she's Allison Blair, and she first appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 130, I think, and it was in February of 1980. And she's got the ability to convert sound vibrations into light and energy beams. And she's an interesting character because she's like a character created by committee. There was a whole thing where they were trying to create a musical disco character to fit the times. It was like a multimedia thing with Casablanca Records and Marvel, where they were trying to like develop a movie about it. I think they were trying to just build up like music mixed with movies, mixed with animation, mixed with the comics. And she was partially created by the staff and Tom DeFalco and John Romita Jr., where this was supposed to be a thing, but it eventually fizzled out. And people kind of like, historically, Dazzler's been kind of a character that they didn't really know what to do with. But I've really liked her runs, like her arcs in her place in like the Chris Claremont Silvestri, Mutant Massacre, and Inferno storylines. But she's really, really cool. She's kind of come back, but not really recently. She's also been tied to like Longshot, who's one of my all-time favorite characters. So they're here. She's doing like a show where she uses her powers to create this like rock and roll disco persona, and she's being like attacked by this group called the Hellfire Club. We don't know that, like the audience is supposed to know this at the time, but Scott jumps in, protects her from these acolytes of the Hellfire Club, and this guy named Alexander Pierce, who turns into a character who's with a group called the Reavers. They're basically like mutants and like mercenaries who have cybernetic parts on them. But this is before that, when he was a full member of the Hellfire Club. And she and him, he saves her, and it's like, anyways, I gotta move on. That's what I even wrote, like, anyways. So Scott freaks out when he gets this like kind of psychic message from Jean. Gambit tries to calm him down, but that's when they get the almost kidnapping of Dazzler. And at the end of it, Dazzler kind of puts the moves on Scott a little bit. And Wolverine at this point, if you saw it behind me, this is not what he get to use his claws for. He's making a fucking sandwich. Because TVY7, everyone. So Scott's like in the doorway though, and it's Scott and Wolverine's relationship is kind of interesting after Jean during the whole Phoenix stuff, because they're almost friends. Because he's like, fix one of those for me. He's like leaning in the doorway, and they're about to have a conversation about this stuff. Like, hey, like they're just having a couple of bro moments. Like, hey, where's Cajun at, and all this stuff. But this is where Jean comes in with Charles and Storm, and they were having this friendly convo, but it's interrupted, and Jean's kind of like out of it and distant, and this with the Phoenix still inside her, Scott's frustration is growing because it's like nothing's helping her. They don't know what to do. It's literally just they're lost right now. And Chuck says that Scott might be, because of their psychic link, the only thing that's keeping her together, and it becomes very important later on in the episode. And yet, this is where we're introduced to the Hellfire Club. They were introduced in January of 80, like an Uncanny X-Men number 120. So all this is like happening pretty closely to each other, the events of all this. So again, they're taking from the comics and putting them kind of the events pretty close together. I know 10 issues can be a lot though in a comic book. And we're introduced to like the looks of Sebastian Shaw, Leland, Emma Frost, Jason Wingard, Pierce is there. And these people are fucking evil. Okay, these are some bad people. They're rich, they're the socialites, they look like they jumped out of the fucking 1800s, except for her, of course, who, Emma always like gets to dress all kinds of, I don't know, it's like sadomasochist, Dean, like S&M, but like playful. I don't know, but these are bad people. And they're like basically the kind of like the mutant versions of like the Illuminati or like the Masons. They're very elite, elitist, rich, powerful people whose eyes are on like influencing power, global domination in a way, like doing things behind the scenes to help themselves out. And the worst one, kind of like, well, they're all really bad, but Jason Wingard, who's also known as Mastermind, his arc in this is really fucked up, and he's played by a guy named Nigel Bennett, and he's been in just about everything. He's a character actor forever, and I couldn't get his voice out of my head, and so I found this little clip of Nigel Bennett in a little commercial, and I thought it was just kind of funny. So you might recognize this voice and go, "That's a voice you might recognize." So here we go.
And this isn't it. Aye, real oatmeal should be thick enough to stop a bullet. And all these great crispy flakes. What good's that?
Crispy rolled oat flakes with a taste of brown sugar, with raisins or almonds.
It's not like any oatmeal I've ever seen before. Not true. It's not like any oatmeal I've ever tasted before either.
Oatmeal Crisp. The name says oatmeal. The taste says delicious.
It's a bonny cereal. But it's not oatmeal.
Okay, so I thought that was kind of funny. It just really, I needed to put a face to the voice. But that was like from a commercial from a long time ago. But chances are you've seen him in stuff like shows like The Strain. But I looked up his IMDb page. It's huge. So chances are you've heard that voice or that actor a long time ago. And then this is where I thought they were just doing like a straight up recap for the audience of like what happened in the Phoenix Saga, but really what Emma's doing here is her psychic link or her psychic abilities is telling us how she returned to Earth, and they mock her because they don't know how she got all this information, because while she's powerful, she's nowhere near Jean or Phoenix or Charles. But really what we find out here is in the distracted state that Charles was in the Phoenix Saga that we saw him in distracted states. They built up to this so that they can explain it later. They did this. They gave us exposition of something and explained something from later in a plot point from today. And that is crazy. They did this, like they explained this kind of stuff, a plot point from way earlier, connecting something in the future that most shows don't do, most movies like X-Men movies can't do, have been unable to do. And that's amazing to me. So that's how they explain how she was able to, and this was just to explain like how she was able to get into their computer systems. The attention to detail in this, just fantastic. So of course once Emma explains to them the power that is inside Jean, this Phoenix power, this limitless power, of course they want it for their own. They want to be able to harness it and control it and make sure that they can basically be the most powerful group on Earth. Look at that fox in the background over there. Learn perspective. Well, this is where Jason Wingard steps in, aka Mastermind, whose power is like psychic illusions, very powerful, influencing things. He basically changes the way your reality looks, and he can completely make you see and feel like you're really in a situation. And he's fucking awful. He's an evil, evil, evil person. And we get much more of that later. And it's in the comic. We'll get to that. So Phoenix is hungry, and it keeps trying to take over Jean. And Xavier and Beast are talking about this, and they're like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Well, it's not what I saw in her mind; it's what I felt." And it's like the Phoenix is feeling human emotions, and it's never really felt that. It's never had a connection like that it has in Jean. And so all these emotions that Jeans are feeling are amplified, and even more amplified in the Phoenix, this godlike power that's never felt emotion and connection to things. So they're all just ramped up to fucking 100. And especially you see this when Scott mentions Dazzler, and she gets really jealous and like threatens her, and you can see the darkness starting to come out of her, and it's like this thing is changing her from the inside slowly but surely, just becoming more powerful. And this is before Wingard even gets his like hooks into her. And so, like, Scott, of course, the plot needs Scott to go protect Dazzler from the Hellfire Club. And he goes, and Storm stays. Well, while he goes there, Jean tries to sleep. And this is where Emma and Wingard team up to infect Jean and Phoenix's mind. And it's really fucked up. If you think about this, if this was in a movie or a show, this is a guy going inside someone's mind, and kind of like Legion would do and has done, to completely change her reality. And he takes her back to like a time kind of like they're dressed, where they're out on the ship and she was in the water, and he makes her believe that they're lovers and that they're fiancés to getting ready to be married, and like this is all like whatever you're thinking is not real, you're mine, and all this. And she wakes up, she remembers Scott and Jean, her relationship with Scott, that connection to Scott, their wedding and everything. So it's kind of what's holding her, again, like they said, his relationship to Jean is what's grounding her still. But she's having conflicted feelings now that this fucking mind rapist is in her head. And wow, I kind of went off on my own tangent there. She knows what's real, but she's becoming more confused. And the link prevented them from completely being able to take her over. So they decide to go to her, the Hellfire Club. Who takes off and tries to find Scott, who now she's in the whole Dark Phoenix, like the way her green and yellow and white colors were all bright and reflecting the power of the Phoenix when it was doing good. Now with these darker emotions that she's feeling, it changes the costume into a different look. And Wingard steps in here. So they're at the club trying to protect Dazzler. Meanwhile, Jean, aka Phoenix, comes there and is approached by Wingard, who again uses his powers to manipulate her into thinking that she's with him again, and they leave. Well, this is where we get, another fight scene outside where they try to stop her. Wingard steps in, and Dazzler and them fight the Hellfire Acolytes, and Wolverine tracks. Then after they take off with her, Wolverine is able to track them with the rest of the X-Men to the Hellfire Club's place. And in this, I love, we got the line from Wolverine, I got your invitations right here, enough for everybody, schnick, Again, I can't stop. I always do this. Like, I'm always pretending I got claws. I'm sorry, everyone. It's just something I've been doing my whole life. I just need to buy the claws, I think. Rogue does recon where she sees Wingard marrying Jean. And not just like, they actually can do this, all right? Apparently Leland or whatever can perform a legal ceremony. This is about to become a legally binding thing that she thinks she's entered into willingly, but instead she's being tricked by this guy who is making her think that they have this other life. And her perception of reality is completely gone. And so that's another thing that they never did in the movies, was showing the manipulation. And by removing the Hellfire Club from the story, it kind of just forced the movie people to, instead of just having more movies, building up, making a trilogy or something, they just skipped it all to just go, oh, she's just highly emotional and that's how she went bad. And in this, she actually thinks she's like protecting her love and from other people that are X-Men must be bad. And this is where it's all basically, there's a big fight. We get lines like, I'll send you off to Dreamland, and Shaw. Like, Rogue comes in there and she tries to punch Shaw by saying, I'll send you to Dreamland, sugar. And Shaw, let me just tell you something about Shaw. I fucking hate Sebastian Shaw. I hate him. I hate his character so much. Like, it's a tribute to how they've written him over the years, but I fucking hate him. Every time I see him in the books, I'm like, fucking somebody kill him. Like, I get, ugh. Like, I hate the Hellfire Club, man. I fucking hate the Hellfire Club. I hate them. Which makes them really great villains because their powers are really impressive. And there's the other line, Wolverine says to Pierce, I hope you're into recycling, right before they actually kind of let him use his claws on his robot arm. And then Storm with the exposed wires, shocks him up. But then Leland, Wolverine tries to stop him, but he pulls a Scarlet Witch, and like she did to Vision in Civil War, he just shoves Wolverine with the pressure of his power, through the floors, down, 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 into the ground, into the basement levels of their place, and it's a pretty big place. But this is a really great fight. Everybody's, again, they're always really well choreographed animated fight scenes in this show. But in the end, Phoenix stops the fight by blasting Storm. Everybody's like, what the fuck just happened? And she's completely under his power and, says, I'm with these people now, and turns and kisses Wingard. And, I mean, she kisses him deep. Like, she just gives him a full-on, like, like somebody you haven't seen in a long time. Like, it's very disturbing because this is bordering on, if not full-blown, a rapey situation. And in the books, it gets so much darker than that. And again, Wingard, Mastermind, he's a character that you don't care what happens to him. Like, there's no redeeming quality to him. This is like really, really evil shit. And again, this is on a fucking cartoon show from the 90s that kids were watching this play out. Now, parents don't even know. Like, they're walking through the room. They're not even paying attention. They're doing their own thing. Well, the kids, meanwhile, we're getting this, like, very adult story. And this is just part 1. Now, like, technically, it's, like, part 6 of this, like, thing that I'm doing. But this is part 1 of the Phoenix Saga. And it's dark. And it's about to get darker. And so, with that, that's the end of part 1. So if you liked this review, please hit the like button. If you're not already a subscriber, please become a subscriber. I want to just again thank everybody that's been checking these out. Share these with your friends if they like the X-Men, they like comic books, they like talking about comic books, you like talking about the animated shows. I want to again thank the showrunners that have reached out to me on Twitter and kind of supported the videos, and other people as well. So that's it. We will be back after we get through our next run of scheduled shows to review. Should be in the next few days. Otherwise, this is Robert Smirking Gun Review saying if you haven't had a chance to look at them yet, I did some videos with Gino Reynolds from The Real Gino. We did, I did my end of videos, the future of the MCU, our best, worst, and most disappointing videos so far of 2019. We did our favorite Tarantino moments. On his side of the channel, we did a Stranger Things new Coke taste testing. We reviewed the show Good Boys from my car. It's a new kind of segment that he's doing called The Real Road Warrior. And then we also did our top 5 MCU moments to come that we want, our fantasies, our greatest wishes for those shows. So you can catch those on his channel at The Real Gino. That's The Real REEL Gino, Geno. So you can go support his channel. And I was also on D's Reviews doing an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6 and 7 kind of look at that stuff. That's on D's Reviews. So anyway, this is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews saying we're going to be back with Perpetual Grace Limited Season, Episode 8, I believe I'm on, probably tomorrow. So have a great day, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks so much. Bye.